Welcome to K&L Gates' Working Wise podcast series. My name is Vincent Avallone, and I am a partner in the Newark office of the firm's Labor, Employment, and Workplace Safety Practice Area. In this podcast, I will discuss internal investigations of employment matters and, in general, important issues for employers to keep in mind when conducting internal investigations. There are various events that could trigger a need for an employer to investigate, such as complaints by employees of harassment or discrimination, employee complaints about retaliation, employee complaints about misconduct in general, such as theft or some type of wrongdoing by a coworker. In addition, complaints about whistleblowers alleging some type of wrongdoing within the company that needs to be potentially reported to government agencies. There are no magic words or buzzwords that an employee must use to make a complaint that requires investigation, and complaints need not come through formal channels such as through an established complaint process or directly to the Human Resources Department, the Legal Department, or a compliance officer. In addition, complaints that need to be investigated need not be in writing. Often, mere knowledge of events that have taken place without a specific formal complaint may be sufficient to require an employer to take the initiative to investigate. What are the elements of an appropriate investigation? In general, the investigation should be designed so that it could be trusted by some third party who will be viewing the investigation. That third party could be the government, it could be a judge or a jury. We would like to have an investigation be conducted in a way so that there can be confidence in the outcome of the investigation. Chief among that is that the investigation must be viewed as being conducted by an impartial investigator. It should be designed to ensure that all appropriate witnesses are interviewed and all of the relevant facts are uncovered. The investigation should be prompt and thorough, considering the circumstances. And obviously it should be well documented. At the end, the investigation must be sufficient to enable the employer to draw reasonable conclusions. And confidentiality is always an important element of an internal investigation to ensure its integrity, and therefore it may be necessary to take steps to ensure confidentiality of the investigation. In determining who should investigate, some key considerations are the titles and positions of employees involved in the conduct alleged or the wrongdoing alleged. Based upon that type of conduct, there may be certain individuals who are more appropriate to conduct the investigation, such as if there are certain important issues involving financial matters or intellectual property matters. In addition, an individual should be well trained in the skills that are required for interviewing witnesses and assessing credibility. An investigator's effectiveness as an interviewer is very important. And keep in mind that an investigator may later be called as a witness, and therefore how well they're capable of speaking in public audiences is also very important to consider. Obviously, types of investigators could include in-house human resources professionals. They are individuals who are most likely to be conducting the majority of employment-related internal investigations, but not exclusively HR. There could also be a member of management that would be appropriate to conduct the investigation, or even outside counsel. But keep in mind that outside counsel, when conducting an investigation, may not be privileged, that communications may not be privileged, and therefore it may be important to keep in mind that this person will also become a witness in a lawsuit, and that witness cannot necessarily represent the company in that lawsuit. Outside qualified HR consultants or investigators are also appropriate to consider for internal investigations. When conducting interviews in the investigation, it is critical that the interview be conducted in a private setting so that the witness feels comfortable disclosing all that they need to say about the issues at hand. Certain circumstances may require the witness to be interviewed at an off-site location. The best practice is to have two people present for the company during the interview. One could be a primary questioner and the other a primary note taker. When conducting the interviews, interview one person at a time, not employees in a group. Remember, we want to maintain the integrity of the investigation, and therefore segregating individuals so that they do not know what other witnesses have said is very important. In addition, in-person interviews are preferred. Credibility determinations are best made through face-to-face discussions. If an in-person interview is not possible due to practical reasons, consider video conference options where credibility determinations are very important. When asking questions, seek facts. Ask open-ended questions. Do not suggest an answer in the question. Maintain neutrality and a professional tone, and appear open-minded, because as an investigator, you must be open-minded. Don't argue or express opinions or suggest a foregone conclusion. Ask all witnesses for supporting evidence, such as photographs, emails, notes, calendar entries, or other documents that could support or refute a key issue. And follow up on answers, asking if they have any other information to supply. And offer each witness an opportunity to prepare a written statement. When you're speaking to witnesses, you should let them know that you are conducting an investigation. And it's important, depending upon the circumstances, to let them know if they are requested to keep the interview confidential. It is not appropriate to require confidentiality in every single investigation, but that issue must be assessed on a case-by-case basis. It's necessary to advise employees of the policy that the employer has prohibiting retaliation. Advise each witness that they have the right to complain or participate in an investigation in good faith without fear of retaliation. This will ensure that they feel more comfortable disclosing all facts relevant to the issue under inquiry. And you should also inform each individual that they should report back if they feel that they have in fact been retaliated against for participating in the investigation. When interviewing the complaining witness, it's important to ask that individual to identify all people about whom the complaint is made, obtaining details about each incident of misconduct, including when and where they occurred, and what witnesses or other individuals may have knowledge about it. Identify all relevant documents or tangible items that the complaining witness has that could relate to the case under investigation or be helpful to a clearer understanding of the issues. It is also important when interviewing the complainant to underscore the importance of the non-retaliation policy. After interviewing a complaining witness, consider whether or not to recommend interim measures to separate a complaining witness from other individuals. Keep in mind that an individual who is complaining and is moved to a different position or is placed on an administrative leave may not feel that action appropriate and may claim retaliation for engaging in that behavior. When interviewing the individual accused of wrongdoing, it is important to emphasize the need to prohibit retaliation against any individual seen as having made a complaint or participating in the investigation of the complaint. Issues that frequently arise during an internal investigation are individuals who choose not to cooperate with an interview, who do not want to participate for whatever reason. When encountering that type of witness, ensure that individual of the policy the company has against retaliation and confirm that the company can take action based upon only the information obtained during the investigation. If information is withheld by them and the company cannot consider it, it won't be taken into account in deciding on how the matter will be handled. If a complaining witness refuses to cooperate or declines to answer questions about certain subject areas, keep in mind that you can inform the individual that that will be taken into account in assessing their credibility, and decisions will be made even in the absence of their participation. The same goes true for the individual who was accused. If that individual does not participate, the company is going to need to make decisions without their input. If an individual refuses to submit to an interview without the presence of an attorney, and the company allows an attorney to be present, it would be a good idea for the company to ensure that a second person is present on behalf of the interviewer during that interview. If an employee wishes to record an interview as part of an internal investigation, and if that is allowed, it would be a good idea to make a second recording that the investigator retains for their own purposes. After the interviews are complete and the evidence gathered, it is critical to just step back and take a look at all of the information assembled to ensure that there are no holes or gaps. Look at it from the perspective of a third party at that point and assess whether or not all reasonable areas of inquiry have been pursued. An investigative report is usually appropriate. In those cases when a report is prepared, it is very important to keep that report confidential. This is a confidential internal investigation, and therefore the report detailing that investigation should be kept confidential. The report needs to be disseminated only to those individuals who have a need to see it. Typically, this would be human resources and the appropriate manager or managers who would be involved in making decisions about the outcome of the matter. If possible, the investigator should not be part of the decision-making process, but rather should be the neutral fact finder who provides the facts for others to deliberate upon. Any corrective actions that need to be taken following the investigation should be implemented. And then finally, it's important to return to the complaining witness to let them know that the investigation has concluded and to provide general information that is appropriate to be supplied at the conclusion. It may also be appropriate to notify the accused wrongdoer that the investigation was completed and make appropriate disclosures at that point as well. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of K&L Gates Working Wise podcast series. More episodes in our series can be found at klgateshub.com, and you can learn more about our labor, employment, and workplace safety practice on our main website, which is klgates.com. Thank you for joining us.